Okay, today we're going to be talking about exports. Now, there's some stuff you got to understand when we're talking about exporting, because exporting is just because when you open up as a country to free trade, you're going to be the products that you make in your country, agriculture, clothes, and all that, you're able to ship that to the worldwide market. Now, let's go look through right here. Of course, you have your standard supply and demand curve. But now, since you open up, you have the world price. Now, what the world price is it's going to be higher than you're going to want to export. And what I mean by higher is higher than the market you already have in your country, which is right here. So your country, it retails at $2, but the worldwide market, you get it for $3. So that means the producers here are going to export. And so what does that happen in the country? Well, look, producer surplus goes from here to now all of this right here, because they're able to sell, they're going to supply a lot more because they're going to make a lot more profit on the world market. And consumer surplus goes from here to here, because now the market that they had in their country is now going overseas as they start selling it to the world market, and it's going to be sold for $3 now. So the producers, going to be making, pursuit is going to increase, going to be making all that money. Now, total surplus is now, let's break it down right here, is A, B, and C before you started, trading and exporting. Now it becomes A, B, C, and D. You gain D because now the world price is over the price before trade, or like the equilibrium. Now, when you're talking about consumer surplus, it goes from A, B to now A, and you lost B. And producer surplus went from C to B, C, and D. Now, right here, you're going to have two Q's right here. Let's try to get a marker real quick. Q right here, and then you have Q right here. And this is just basically the domestic quantity demanded and then the domestic quantity supplied. Now, when you subtract these two, you find out how much you made in exports. We're talking about imports. So I'm going to put some numbers right here. There we go. So let's just talk about, through my company eyes, this is, China importing, music from America and stuff like CDs and stuff like that. We're just making up our own world. But anyway, for example, why would they import? And that's because the world price is lower than the prices they have in their own country. Now, why would you do that? Because that helps your economy boom. Because instead of paying $3 for a Travis Scott CD, you pay $2. Now with the extra dollar, they can put that back in the economy. So that's why countries import. So you see right here, we got domestic supply. And you got domestic demand right there. Let's put our Q's right here. And this is just domestic quantity supplied, and right here, domestic quantity demanded right there. So let's go ahead and, break down these things right here. So right here, we have the world price. And then this was right here, the price, before the trade. And right here, we have consumer surplus. And as you see, it goes from here to now goes to A, B, and D. And that's just because, at the lower price, they're able to get more of the product. And more people are willing to buy the product, so it's cheaper. Now, producer surplus goes down. it goes from here, there, to here. And that's because, less is, being produced in the country. It's being imported from other countries. So, they're losing money. And then from there, we calculate this by having quantity demanded subtracted from quantity, supplied. And then from there, we can see how much is imported right there. Because this part right here is the import. Now we're going to go ahead and just move on to tariffs. So today we're going to be talking about tariffs. And tariffs are going to be put on imports. So a country does this for two ways, either to make money or to increase production of its own country. So doing it to the eyes of my company and doing Travis Scott CDs being imported to, in our little country right here. This is how it works. So you have consumer surplus before, you see that it's all of this right here. Now, with the tariff on it, it now goes to here. Now that is because, the tariffs have increased the price of the item being imported, so they have to pay more money for it. So that decreases, the amount being bought or, people buying it. But that increases producer surplus as it goes from here to here. Because now, since it's more expensive there, we got production right here. And this is the world price. World price is right here. See, that's how you get the tariffs to be effective, is by making it more expensive than the world price, or over the world price, So that way you can have production, keep production in your country. Now that we got that out the way, it does cost a certain amount of things. One is it creates deadweight loss here and here. And then E becomes the revenue. E becomes the revenue that the country is making. And now you can see the quantity supplied and, domestic quantity demanded before and then after the tariff. Now that's everything about tariffs right there. And then right here, these two numbers right here, which you find how much you imported right there. Okay, that's everything about tariffs. Today we're going to be talking about taxes. Now you have two types of taxes. One that affects the producers and the others that can affect the consumers. So in this example, basically when it's affecting the consumers, then it's the demand that's going to be shifting. Because if they got to pay tax on it, you're going to buy a lot less of it. So the demand curve is going to be shifting. But since in this example, it's a tax on producers, the supply is going to be shifting. Because as they're being taxed, they have less money to put into their companies. It's less appealing. So the supply that they're going to be giving out is going to shift to the left. Now, as I break this down, we're going to use the eyes of my company, and we have Travis Scott t-shirts right here. And the price is $3 at markup equilibrium, and quantity, the quantity was 100. Now, let's say the government puts a $2 tax on it. Now, this tax burden is going to be split between the producers and consumers, but that varies depending on the product. So now it goes up to $4, and the quantity goes to 80, because it's a lot less being demanded now. Now, I get what you're saying. If it's a $2 tax, why did it only go up $1? Because it is shared. And you can tell how much is taxed by if you're looking at the distance between the two supply curves. So here to here, you can tell that's $2. Now, if we take this 2 times it by 80, that's 160, and we get our tax revenue that the government is making. This also affects producers and consumer surplus. As you look right here, it went from here to now here. Same thing here. It went from here to now to here, which now creates dead weight loss right here. And now, make sure I covered everything. And then you can see that the revenue that is going to the consumers and that's going to the producers. And then flip it over. And here's 3 more examples right here of how it varies depending on like the product being sold. So when the demand curve is very inelastic. So let's say, insulin, where the demand's not going to shift that much. Or in my company, let's say Travis Scott's tickets are inelastic. People always gonna have to pay that same price because they need it. So that means the consumers are going to pay for all of it. Now right here, this is relatively inelastic, and the producers are going to pay most of it. Not producers, consumers are going to pay most of it. And this is right here, all consumers. But if you have right here, like this, for example, perfectly inelastic, where it's basically saying if the price goes above a number, nobody will pay for it. But if it's below, then the amount being paid, being bought will be infinite. So they can't have it go over that price. So that means producers will end up paying all that tax. And that is taxes. And also to explain just a little bit more, this right here, how much the government is making. You have the 2 to 4 times 80. Now here, it's like, the total, amount for the milk. And out of that, this is how much the suppliers are making. Because you have 2, so they're making 160. And the government is taking the other chunk, which is 160. Just wanted to elaborate that. And then real quick, I'll explain hold on 1 second. We'll just talk about if the producers were being taxed. A little quick graph right here. This is what I meant by demand would be shifting down. Because let's say the ice cream cone, each person buying ice cream cone had to pay a 50-cent tax. So because of that, the demand will go down because they got to pay more for it. So that's why it's shifting down.